We are back for the second episode of the Echo
Disrupted
podcast, where we have conversations that normal people would have. So today we're going to talk about a couple of things. First and foremost, we're going to be discussing Trump supporters, especially Black male Trump supporters. So I would like for you to start, and then I will chime in, give me your thoughts, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so the Black Trump supporters, I know they come in an interesting variety, right? I question some of them having an allegiance to what the image of Donald Trump is. So he comes across and he's a billionaire, he's a businessman, he's, no holds barred, he disrupts the system, so to speak, and he's like a man's man. And all of those things to me are falsehoods. So without just to start from a business perspective, his bankruptcies that he's had.
Yep.
We also look at, coming from New York and being in the area and understanding how he inherited his father's real estate business and also conducted those same practices as far as with the Black population, anyone, just trying to stop them from renting in his units, all of those sort of things, the racial aspects. The other part of the New York aspect is we grew up during the Central Park Five or the Exonerated Five and that whole piece. And then getting into the bankruptcies for the businesses, be it the stakes, the Trump University, we could go on and on. It does lay a question of how can he be a businessman? He has not paid taxes, but these are the things that stick out because he's a great marketer. And my undergrad degree is in marketing, so I see it.
Yeah.
You say it enough, you put it out there, you have this persona. He had the television show, The Apprentice, and it's all part of that campaign, but that looks good, right? No one cares about, I hate to quote this dude, Charlemagne, but who cares about the truth when the lie is more entertaining, right? So just perpetuates. Yeah, it just perpetuates and it goes on. So I think that is what people gravitate to. And then from the star perspective, meaning like if it's the Ice Cubes or the Lil Waynes and those folks, what is the other one from? I can't remember his name, right? Kodak Black.
There's Kodak Black.
Yeah, all of those folks, there's vested interest, right? From the aspect of pardons and basically being transactional. You have the money, Trump will take the money and you go ahead and you get your pardon. That piece is also there. And I think that that's what helps. And then the final aspect is that with him being in this role of, doing the tax cuts for, folks that are making all the money, it's lucrative for them to support, right? Because you're making all this money, then cut my taxes. I don't want to pay all of this. So those are the reasons why I see there's a gravitation to Trump. It's more the image without really looking behind the curtain and seeing all of the things that he's done. So I'll stop there. What about you?
No, I totally agree with all your points. I think to go a little bit further, I think also the challenge, without taking too many shots, is there's a lack of sophistication on a lot of our parts, right? One of the points that I think that if you look at it from a macro standpoint, right, there's the efforts to blunt the critical thinking in our community have been effective, because you've got a lot of dudes, you got a lot of black dudes, black men who literally do not understand the impact of a Trump presidency on us. You look at the numbers in terms of how black people have done under Trump. Trump tried to on a couple of occasions, his budgets were to take out a good chunk of the budgets, of the funding for minority businesses as well as the SBA, right? Literally, it's going to take out $43 million out of one of the budgets. The other one was $18 million, right? Was trying to take out, right? Um, taking out, taking out the financing for taking out the financing for that he actually said he was getting for HBCUs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, the the requesting of having the consent decrees taken away from the police officers, right? So you can't regulate the police,
Mm-hmm.
right? The requesting that to have what do you call that immunity? What's the immunity? The police. What is the police? The police.
Oh, it'll come to me.
Yeah, right. All these things work against us, right? All of Trump's ideas work against us, right? Trying to eliminate social programs, right? Trying to revamp Social Security, right? All these things literally work against our people. And for whatever the reason, right, our guys are attracted to them. I've heard on a couple of occasions, and it's always confused me when I hear it. The Democratic Party hasn't done anything for Black people. And,
Qualified immunity. Sorry.
qualified immunity. There you go. Right. They have left the Black man behind, and I'm like, and like, what does that even? I don't even know what that means, right? And I guess because they're viewing the success of the Black woman, who happens to be the most educated, demographic of them all. Right, they see the success of Black women and their failures, or at least their perceived failures, and view that as the Democratic Party leaving them behind, not having any initiatives for them. But the question becomes, what would an initiative for Black men actually look like, right? Like like some of the stuff, if you just really boil it down, it's like, what exactly are we talking about? Like, I don't understand this. What are you looking for when they say there's no policies for us? What is a policy for us? Right? It's confusing to me, right? Because again, I'm a Black man, right? I don't have any real expectations that a political party is going to specifically target me with a program to help me get better, right? A lot of what this is, and unfortunately, right, there's a little bit of house cleaning and a little bit of mirror, a little bit of looking in the mirror that has to happen. A lot of the reasons why you guys are in bad shape is because you made bad decisions, during your formative years, right? And you aren't positioned, right, to be able to take advantage of some of these opportunities. The reason why you're watching a lot of Black women thrive is because they are positioned to thrive, right? It's I don't remember the Democratic Party doing anything specific for Black women in order to allow Black women to thrive, right? Maybe I could be wrong, right? But I do remember watching Black women, grind, right, and educate themselves and join different groups and do different things, and invest in their own educations to be able to position themselves.
Mm-hmm.
While I'm also watching a lot of Black dudes want to be rappers, right? So the reality is the chickens, to a degree, are coming home to roost. And when you watch these guys who are looking at a dude who has nothing but a racist past, right? Donald Trump is a racist, always been a racist, right?
Mm-hmm.
I used to work in a building, and used to work in a building, in the Nike Town building, where he was the landlord, right? His building was right next door, Trump Towers. And I knew his security guard. And his security guard said, this dude is. I said, is he as racist as this is? He says, even worse, right? So this is talking about 1998, something like that, in that space.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the unfortunate part about us, right? Because of that lack of sophistication, we aren't able to contextualize what we're looking at. And because of that, to your point, they like that macho image, right?
Mm-hmm.
They like that macho image. They like the marketing. They like the package.
Mm-hmm.
They believe what they're told, right? And they believe what they're looking at without giving any real thought. If you ever listen to, I've engaged with a lot of these dudes on social media, and they always talk about who they like. Oh, you don't like Donald Trump, or you hate Donald Trump. It's like, well, first and foremost, I don't either like or hate any politician, right? They're
Mhm.
politicians, but this is the lens through which they process information, right?
Mhm.
So that's why they're getting that kind of reaction. Because if you look at it, right, Donald Trump was running the economy into the trash before COVID.
Mhm.
Before COVID, Donald Trump was making a mess out of the economy. The economy that everybody's celebrating is Obama's economy that started in 2009. That upward trajectory started in 2009. He started running into the ground.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
again, here comes that lack of sophistication, that lack of understanding of how to read the circumstances and being able to contextualize it. You guys got and I had this argument in a barbershop where the guy was like, "Yeah, niggas had money in their pocket during when Trump was in office." I said, "Yeah, the summer of COVID." I said, "So there's an expectation that COVID's coming back, right?" I said, "Do you remember this dude throwing paper towels at Puerto Ricans during the hurricane?" I was like,
Mhm.
I said, "You're hiring a president is a crisis manager, right? That's really what you're hiring." I said, "This dude blew every opportunity at every crisis. He made a complete mess. He was telling you to drink Clorox. He had no idea how to handle anything anything that he was faced with. He had no idea how to handle it because when the rubber meets the road, he was ill-equipped to deal with any of these circumstances because his whole life he's been putting on a show." The
Mhm.
unfortunate part is too many of us identify with that, where we aren't real people and we perform. And this is why rappers have other names, right? You walking around, these dudes are telling you how real they keeping it. Meanwhile, they're walking around with a fake name, right? It's
Mhm.
like, oh, the toughest guys in the world dancing on stage. Like, tell me how the whole thing is oxymoronic. So you guys identify with him because you guys are also performing, right? Your whole lives are performative, like his whole life is performative, is performative. So therefore, you can identify with this dude and are therefore would be willing to put him into a position that he's unqualified for because you've been in positions that you're unqualified for, right? With
Mhm.
us, it's always the finesse, right? When we
Mhm.
thinking about everything is I'm a finesse this, so on and so forth, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't really want to, that sounds great when I'm a kid. I don't really want that to be my life as an adult,
Mhm.
right? Where everything is a finesse. But at some point, right, when you've basically been making bad choices your whole life, all you got is bad choices left. This
Mhm.
is what we're looking at. I'm sorry for rambling. Um,
No, no, but it makes sense though. I think we both are in line with that discussion on Trump and what his visual is and what he presents versus like what the true facts are, right? So if you keep repeating the same thing, distracting people from they
mhm.
talk about, and I know we're going to segue into the DNC, but they're talking about Kamala and what the platform is, what she's going to do. And I try to really listen to some of the Trump rallies,
Mhm.
and the dude isn't really talking about anything.
Absolutely nothing.
So,
Absolutely nothing.
if it's not, if he looks better than Kamala, Kamala looks like Melania, whatever Melania, whatever his wife's name is, then crowd sizes, the list goes on and on. But
Nothing of substance whatsoever.
right, so to me, the same thing should happen when it comes down to policy as well. In that same bar that everyone is pushing, and to say the least, he's been running for president since the other election. So he hasn't stopped because the grift is the money.
There
If
you
he keeps
go.
running for president,
There
then
you go.
he keeps gaining money from everyone else that's giving their donations, and then he also helps to keep himself out of jail because I don't think they're going to sentence him come next month. But go ahead.
To your point though, right? And again, in terms of the profile of the Trump supporter, the black male Trump supporter,
Mhm.
typically an ex-con, right? Somebody who's crime adjacent, right?
Mhm.
Typically somebody who's unserious, right? Somebody who isn't necessarily doesn't really take themselves seriously, right? Typically a little bit of a jokester or prankster, right? Somebody who doesn't necessarily have command of the facts. and then the flat out village idiot, right? Who knows nothing, right? Knows nothing, doesn't hasn't paid attention to anything and is essentially going with the flow. And the last guy is the contrarian, right? I'm just gonna do this because I'm being a contrarian. But all what you don't have in that group is anybody strategic, right?
Mhm.
I was listening to something earlier. They were talking about the guy was talking about the people that for some reason we look to for leadership usually are dribbling the ball, holding a mic, um, entertaining somewhere. Meanwhile, the other side leadership, they don't look to entertainers for leadership, right? They're not looking to the unserious for serious subject matter. And I think that's something that plagues us, right? To your
Mm.
point about the policy, every time you hear a black man talking about those black guys, right? Where's her policy? Where are the tangibles? To me, tangible says you're stupid and you're just trying to be part of the conversation, right? Because what is a tangible, right? If they gave you, okay, let's just say she dropped a bucket of chicken off of your crib at your crib, that's tangible, right? You can grab that, you can touch that. You don't know how to speak the language of somebody who really wants something out of a politician. So now you're interjecting your language into a discussion with the expectation that you'll get the reaction, the desired reaction. You're not. Reason being, because you do not speak the language of somebody who understands how to cajole, how to push, how to pull something out of a politician. Because at the end of the day, politics is the disbursement of resources, and your ability to leverage that politician determines whether you're going to get resources or not. Using terms like tangibles and what policy. I told one guy, you wouldn't know a policy if it was smoking a black and mild in front of your crib trying to holler at your wife, right? Because the reality is anybody who really knows this stuff ain't talking about that, right? Anybody who understands the language and has their expectations properly set ain't talking about that. So, by the way, Kamala hasn't spoken yet. Why y'all expecting to hear policy from other people at the DNC? I told one lady, I said, "This is your first time watching, ain't it?" Right? Because the
Wait,
reality
someone
is,
wanted policy from one of the
who you gonna get
speakers.
policy from? Jimmy Carter's grandson? Like, I mean, because he was out there.
Oh
Like, who
yeah,
you
he
gonna
was
get
there. Yes.
policy from? But either way, I digress.
Yeah. I mean, I think probably one of the things with us segueing into the DNC is that the DNC does have a large tent, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's many people that are under this tent and many
Mm-hmm.
people that need to be spoken to or inclusive of. And I think as anything, when you're trying to meet the goals or answer wants, address wants and needs of a vast number of people, it becomes difficult, right? Because not everybody's going to get what they want. You may maybe get 1% of something, and it also has to be you are more likely to get something that can help the majority of people. So I think one of the things with President Obama, yes, last night speaking, when he said, "Oh, it's interesting that leading up to the Affordable Care Act, it was Obamacare."
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
now that people are it's still working its way through, but now it's not Obamacare anymore, it's
Yeah,
the Affordable Care
it's the
Act, like
Affordable Care Act.
right. And I think that was a valid statement in
Totally agree.
yeah, in that you know demonizing things and making them negative, to even that goes into the border discussion as well,
Mm-hmm.
with
Mm-hmm.
Trump and uh Vice President Harris. I think when it's all said and done, it again becomes that what do you put on the face of it? What do you keep sensationalizing? What do you market and say something is? And that's why, Trump has all these different names for people and all that
Yep.
stuff. It's
Yep. Yep.
all it's
Yep.
all part
Really
of that.
smart. Really
Yeah,
brilliant.
it's really
Evil
part of his
genius.
right. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the DNC since we're recording on Wednesday, so tonight is going to be Tim Walz, but we saw Barack Obama, Michelle. The list goes on. Who were your standouts from the
So I
DNC
think
so far?
listen. I mean, you can't ask me who the standouts are. You know who they are, right? I mean, it's watching those two speak is like watching a master class,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's Barack Obama's ability to casually, effortlessly connect with a broad audience, to me, is something like that's not skill, that is talent,
Mm-hmm.
right? It can be honed, but at the end of the day, you can't teach that, right? His ability to to land so many blows
Mm-hmm.
without being offensive, to me, it's like, okay, they don't have one of those on that side, right? The Michelle Obama is mama, aunt, sister, girl, all wrapped up in one, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, that level of class, elegance, um, eloquence, right? Grace. It's like, okay, well, how do we? This should be bottled up, right, and sold on
Mm-hmm.
QVC, right? And some people still wouldn't get it, right? It just is what it is. But it's, again, that they have set the tone for what it's supposed to look
Mm-hmm.
like. I to the point you just made in terms of how many different branches there are that need to be fed within under that umbrella of the DNC. It's complicated, but they've done a masterful job. The DNC has done a masterful job so far. The way they've placed everyone, right? All the different people in different places and how they've been able to fit different things, and even having Republicans come out there and speak, right? To me, it's like
Yeah, I was
this.
curious about that too. I didn't pick up on how many, I tap in and out. I was like, oh my goodness, there's quite a few of y'all up here. And
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, I think a lot are grifty.
but
Michelle Wallace, yeah, for
it's
sure. But
politics,
it's
though, right?
politics, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and honestly, and as an aside, right, as a little bit of aside, I think this is the challenge with us as a people, right? We expect politicians to be nice people, right? We expect them to be homegirls and homeboys, and oh, they're gonna do us right. At the end of the day, these people they are in a position, they're giving a ton of power in order to in order to do certain things. And with that, right, what are the
Mm,
chances that I have all the power in the world and I'm also a well balanced person? Like, what are the chances, right? And if
yeah.
I start off well balanced, can I stay well balanced forever, right? If you're telling me everything I want, I walk out of this door and there's a bunch of cars waiting for me, and the doors are being opened for me, and I don't have to make any effort to do anything else but be me, right? What are the chances that I can stay balanced, right? Very
True.
slim, right?
Hmm.
Um, but to everybody's here for something, right? Somebody in my industry, what I say is everybody gets paid. Nobody's doing anything for free. But with that being said, right, it's now that we know that we're what we all here for, and we can let our hair down. Now, who do we look like now that our hair is down, right? So I don't think Obama is a savior, right? I think Obama's really good at what he does, right? Me and
Hmm.
Obama ain't friends. I have no expectations that we would be, right? And therefore, right, he's not going to do everything I like. I don't expect him to, right? There are interests that are beyond my capability of seeing, that he has to speak to, that regardless of what I feel, aren't going to matter. I think I say this all the time to people who talk about what the president is, right?
Hmm.
The president of the United States' first job, the president is a functionary of the United States. Their first priority is to look out for the best interest of the United States. So if you aren't, what that means is a lot of stuff that I don't know about is going to be done, right? It's, oh, this person got killed in these drones, this, that, and the third, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what led up to that. There's a limit. There are limitations on what I understand. With that being said, which person or which party is going to get in there and do me and mine the least amount of harm? That's
Mm-hmm.
that's essentially what, when I'm voting, that's really what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
That takes some critical thought. I don't know if all of us have that.
No, that's fair. And I think also President Obama did say that in his speech that, nobody's perfect. Like some things are gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like, and it's true. And again, there's no way that everyone is gonna be happy. There's absolutely no way to give every single individual their individual wants and needs and and do that in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
get it passed through the Senate and do all the things. It's just,
And do stuff for black people. How can you do nothing for black people?
yeah. Look,
Do stuff for black people, quote unquote.
this is anecdotal, anecdotal, but I can't lie to you. Like when the Affordable Care Act came into play, like before that, or Obamacare,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people needed wheelchairs. And I kid you not, once that went through, do you know the street? Yo, I was getting run over by people in the electric wheelchairs. And not in a bad way, but I mean, I think that it's something that becomes tangible the same way that they want to add hearing aids to be covered by Medicare and eyeglasses. This is something that may seem small, but even for my mom, to get her glasses, it was something that was an outside effort to make sure that she got them. Getting her to get the exam, get the glasses, not covered. You know what I mean? Hearing aids are expensive. They can be upwards of $10,000 for the really good
Mm-mm.
ones.
Mm-mm.
So just saying that these are things that are incremental and they may seem small and they may not impact every single person. But if you need a hearing aid, trust and believe you want that to be covered by Medicare. You need some glasses and you can't see because your readers don't mean anything anymore. You weigh above 4.75. Guess
Mm-hmm.
what? You want some glasses to be covered. You're on a fixed income. You period. So I think that so even these are the things that do help people. It may not help the masses of everyone, but it does help. And if you someone that needs those glasses because you can't see and your shit's taped up, you know what I mean, hanging on by one arm, then hey, that's a big deal for you. The same thing about the insulin. These are things that impact so many people,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
the prices. So anyway, we can go on, but it's just the general idea, giving some examples of things that are in the works and what's needed and does address a need. And as we all are blessed to live longer and the lifespan extends, these are things that we all gonna want and need, So anyway, I'll toss it back to you on that one.
But here and if we're gonna close it out, right, we'll close it out on this note.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, right, a president isn't a king, and a president isn't going to erase the decisions that you made that led you up to this point, right?
Hmm.
If you've got to work 2 to 3 jobs in order to make ends meet, no president's going to fix that for you, right? That's kind of what your lot in life is, right? They're not going to make that easier for you. There's no president that's going to fix that for you. So I think the unfortunate part is, especially as it relates to our people, is managing expectations, understanding specifically what a president's job is and the impact that federal legislation has on your life. You're more impacted by your mayor, actually, right? You're more impacted by your governor. But having a friendly face that far up top allows your governor and your mayor and everybody below them to be able to have a positive impact on you. And to your point, right, all of those things that are being done, it's happening on a federal level. How many people need those things day to day?
Hmm.
Let's just say the Affordable Care Act and just being able to have your kid on your medical coverage at 26 years old because they don't have a job after they graduated, right?
Mhm.
Something as simple as that, how many people benefited, right? I don't know
Right.
what people say, when you say he hasn't done anything for black people, just tell me what y'all looking for, because there's not going to be a free Jordans legislation, right? There's not going to be, the there's not going to be the free barbecue on Friday night legislation, right? Tell me what it means to do something for black people. I really, as a black man, I'm confused by it. I don't know what that means.
No, that's fair. I think probably making that connection to local, state
Hmm.
government and what that
Hmm.
means from the minimum wage, a living wage, and what that represents for each of the states. I know that Cornell University has a strike going on now with the UWA,
Hmm.
over wages, and some of their asks are around free parking, ending tiered salaries, wanting to get a living wage. So, those are things that I think people feel. And when the discussion happens, it's how do you take Kamala's message, this platform's message, and I'm going to say to Trump, I'm going to say to RFK, he's still in here as of today. He
Hmm.
drops out. I'm talking about the Libertarian Party candidates. I'm talking about the Green Party, Jill Stein, like understanding how your policies help trickle down so that that person who is striking today understands how those legitimate asks that they have will be addressed. That's how the messaging has to happen so that
Yeah,
people can start to understand. So,
I heard this morning. So currently, this administration is so union friendly. They have made it the most. This is the easiest environment for labor to protest since the '60s, right? Conversely, Trump just told y'all 2 weeks ago when he was talking to Elon Musk, he was happy that Elon Musk was firing people for
right.
striking, right?
Mhm. Amazon workers too. Like imagine, they trying to unionize.
So it's at the end of the day, there's a couple of different things playing here, right? There's a lack of sophistication, right? And there's just people who are hell bent on voting against their interest, right? Who are hell bent on going against the grain for the sake of going against the grain,
Mhm.
and not understanding and not having a full grasp of how this stuff works against you as well. Parting story.
Mhm.
Uh, Several years ago, I'm in a barber shop and I'm talking to the barber and another guy, and he's telling me about how bad things are. These things are terrible, so on and so forth. I said, when's the last parent? He's talking about how bad the education is at his kid's school. So when's the last parent teachers meeting you went to? He says, I don't have time for that. I don't have time to go to that. I said, so let me just give you an example. I said, you don't show up at a parent teachers meeting, you are telling everybody in that school that you're not invested in your child. Multiply that by 100 kids. Now, the schools are reflective of what happens at the local level, because the local level understand the local municipalities understand that nobody's showing up as well, by the way. So now how much resources that school gets will be determined by how many people show up, right? But because you just said you don't have any time, you've now just basically relegated your children's school, to getting a low amount of whatever those resources are. So here you are complaining, right? You're complaining about what's not happening for you and how this school is terrible. But the reality is, when you had an opportunity to participate, you said you didn't have any time. We don't get that, right? We don't understand that you have to show up. Old people vote religiously. You go to the polls, old people are there, and some of them ain't even gonna be here when this is all over, right? So, but the reality is, now the reason why they get the amount of attention that they do is because they vote religiously. They understand what participation in the system means, right? The unfortunate part about a lot of us, we do not, right? We think that we can live our lives casually and expect to be treated like those who live their lives aggressively, those who are proactively trying to make things happen, you're not going to get the same results. So when they complain about, oh, the gays get rights, so on and so forth, look up Harry Milk and the moves he was making since the 80s, right? Trying to organize all these different things they were doing since the 80s. They had an organized and consistent message till they finally got to a position to be able to get what they want. Point to us, point to our similar scenario. That's enough for me. I'm not saying anything else.
No, I think that this is great. Definitely our second episode. I'm glad that we were able to get this out there. I think we should have our third episode be the DNC wrap up.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree.
Sounds like a
We
plan.
we can do that.
it.
I'll look forward to it.
All right.
All right.